present. So first item is the consent agenda. The commission may request for a consent agenda item to be moved to the regular commission for presentation and public comment. Otherwise, the consent agenda will be considered in one vote. So we have minutes from May and June and a replat in Arlington Heights on the consent agenda. I'm going to open it up for public comment. Does anyone wish to speak on these items? Please come forward. All right, I'm going to close public comment and take a motion.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? 5-0. Regular agenda rezonings and comprehensive plan amendments. The City Council has final authority for approval of rezonings and amendments to the comprehensive plan. Z2405, West Houston Hart Expressway, a request to rezone from low-rise multifamily residential to general commercial.
Good morning, Commissioner. Sherry Bailey, Principal Planner. You have before you a rezoning Z2405. It's on North Houston Hart Expressway. You see the piece of property, it's outlined in red. This is a request to rezone from the low-rise multifamily RM1 to general commercial. It's in SMD 6, Larry Miller's area, and in the Bluffs neighborhood. And you can see on the future land use map that the commercial does in fact support rezoning to the commercial that's requested. And you can see on the zoning map presently the low-rise multifamily. We sent out 9 notifications. We received 0 in support, and I had 1 in opposition. In looking at the intent behind rezoning it to commercial, it makes sense for that particular site rather than multifamily. The overall plan is compatible with the city's comprehensive plan. It is also consistent with the city's zoning ordinance because the rest of that area is going to be commercial. Staff believes that this is compatible with the surrounding area's existing uses and any future uses that one might see. The site to the west is TLCA School, and there's also a housing development adjacent to the property, as you're well aware. We believe that there's no effect on the natural environment, that this facility meets a defined community need, particularly at that busy a location, and this use provides a compatible transition for an underused area. So staff is recommending approval of the rezoning from low-rise multifamily to general commercial. And are there any questions?
Anyone have questions for the staff? Thank you, Sherry. We're going to open it up for public comment.
Morning, Board. Brian Benson. I own that piece of property, and like I said, we don't have any specific use for it at this point. Just know that it's probably not the best for multifamily. So just to go with what's in the area, just trying to get it rezoned to commercial, so when we have something, we already have that step behind us. So if you guys have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them.
Anyone have questions for Brian? Thank you, Mr. Benson.
Yep, thank you guys.
All right, anyone else wish to speak on this case? All right, we're going to close public comment and take a motion or thoughts.
Move to approve as presented.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve as presented. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? 5-0. All right, case 2, Z2406, Bentwood Country Club, a request to zone a 22.096 acre tract located east of Riviera Lane and Clubhouse Lane to single-family residential in conjunction with annexation.
Good morning, Ray Lineberry, planner. These two lots highlighted became annexed in. The first reading was a couple weeks ago at City Council. The second reading is tomorrow. So this is a request to zone it RS1, single-family residential. It is 22.096 acres. It will be in Tommy Hebert, SMD1, and it's in the Country Club neighborhood. The comprehensive plan shows it as neighborhood already, so it fits with the RS1. We mailed out 40 notices. I know it says 2 in favor, but I also received 6 more in email this morning over the weekend. They were all in favor and 0 in opposition. Oops. The proposed annexation, just to show you the lots, and then this was the approved preliminary plat that already included them. So the request is consistent with the comprehensive plan, and the surrounding area was RS1. There's no environmental effects, and it meets a community need for housing, and it does follow a logical and orderly pattern of development. So staff is recommending approval of the RS1 zoning. With that, is there any questions?
Thank you, Ray. We're going to open it up for public comment. Anyone wish to speak on this case? Please come forward. State your name and address or single member district. Okay, we're going to close public comment and take a motion.
Motion to approve.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve as presented. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? 5-0. PD 2404, Shriners Point, a request to rezone property in the 1000 block of East 40th Street from single-family residential to PD with bay zoning of RS1.
Thank you, Austin Reed, planner. This request comes to you out of the Lakeview neighborhood. We are in District Number 2, Tom Thompson's district. The vision plan is neighborhood. This PD is over 23 acres, and the base of it will be RS1. This will be a new residential subdivision. Here's a look at the district standards. So we are adjusting the front and rear setbacks by 5 feet apiece, down to 20 feet and 15 feet respectively. All the corner lots will have 1 front setback instead of 2, the other one being a typical side setback. And the maximum floor area ratio will be increased to 0.5 to allow for further development. The RS1 zoning standards will apply everywhere else. Here's a look at the zoning and the comprehensive plan. You can see it's almost entirely RS1 and neighborhood. We did mail out 50 notices. We did not receive any in opposition. We did receive 1 in support over the weekend. So most of this has only been preliminary platted thus far. This is a couple years old, but it should give you an idea as to their concept plan. You can see there's several new internal streets south of East 40th Street. I think there's somewhere around 130 lots here. Most of them sit around minimum lot size for RS1. Here's a look at the staff's rationale. We think it's compatible with the surrounding area, as almost everything around it is either single-family homes or vacant lots. We think there's a demonstrated community need for housing. This is in the infill area, and this will help to spur development. And we don't think there will be any adverse effect on the natural environment. With that, we are recommending approval, subject to the standards described. Except as otherwise specified, development shall conform to RS1 standards. The following development standards shall apply, and that's just what I went over earlier. And finally, the applicant must work with operations to implement the requirements for the installation of detention bonds. If you have any questions.
So the need for the PD is to adjust the setback requirements?
Correct.
Okay.
They do have a previous, they have ZBA approval for the corner lots already that set it at 10 feet, but now they're asking for 5, just FYI.
Okay. Was this lot, is this the lot that was zoned for multifamily before?
Yeah, we're gonna put apartments in there.
Okay. This is a lot better than multifamily, three-story, walk up. Okay. Do you know about the approximate size of the lots?
Somewhere, they differ. A lot of them are at minimum lot size for RS1, so 50 by 100.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Austin.
Thank you.
Anyone else have questions for the staff? Can I open it up for public comment?
Good morning, Erica Wilde with Wilde Engineering and Surveying. I'm here to answer any questions y'all may have.
Anyone have questions for Erica? I think we're good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak on this case? All right, I'm going to close public comment and take a motion or thoughts.
I do think this is better than apartments. What they were planning on. And we don't have the opposition that we did.
Right.
whenever they were planning.
That's correct.
I'll move to approve as presented.
Okay.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve as presented. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 5-0. All right, PD 0201 Amendment 1326, The Crossing Avenue. A request to amend PD 0201, first replat of Lot 1, Block 1, Section 3, Tract 4, 1326, The Crossings Avenue, to include 2.973 acres for a safety services facility.
Sherry Bailey, Principal Planner. And as you indicated, this particular lot, this one right here, is the one in question. It is 2.973 acres. They are wanting to amend the existing PD 0201, which was approved in 2002, to include fire station as a use and to reduce the 75-foot buffer to 50 feet to allow the construction of driveway entrances for going into the building, and they'll have exiting out on the frontage road. It's in SMD1, Tommy Hebert's district, and the Country Club neighborhood. As you can see on the left, that is the 2001 rezoning that was done, the plan development rezoning. And the area in number 1, this area at the top is the area that we're talking about amending to reduce that 75-foot setback to 50 feet in order, just for the building. The building itself will be at 50 feet instead of 75. And then they'll put in the 2 driveway entrances so that they can circle the fire station, have exiting out on the other side. We believe that this is compatible with the original plan for the area. It's also desperately meets a need within this area. It is the only area in the city that does not have its own coverage at this point, and the fire chief has been looking for a piece of property for a while. The nearest commercial that is there is the one for the, I believe it's Child Protective Services, that large building that's just adjacent. But the underwriting use on this is office commercial. So it was passed in 2001, office commercial and warehouse. And so a fire station, in staff's opinion, is an improvement over having a warehouse with the traffic that is generated by a warehouse. We sent out 9 notifications. We did not receive any in support, and as of this morning, we have 4 in opposition, all from the Pecan Valley housing area. And it's just off over here. It's not within the 200 feet, but we did receive 4 in opposition. And this is the map, and the fire chief is here, and I would like him to come up afterwards and address the need for this area and what it will look like and how it'll function. The intent for this fire station is to finally have complete coverage in the city. It's something that the city needs, particularly for our fire rating. The overall plan is compatible with city's comprehensive plan. Providing services across the city is something that is part of and integral to every city comprehensive plan. That's a very important aspect. The proposed plans are consistent with our city zoning ordinance. A fire station is allowed by its own right in any zone in the city. Some of them take a conditional use on the single-family residential in that area, but most of them allow it by right. Staff believes this site is the best solution and meets the needs of the department. It'll easily accommodate the one way in, second way out. The site concerns listed by the opposition are valid concerns in that hopefully we've made a requirement as part of the conditions on the rezoning that the drainage and the drainage study address the drainage problems that have been identified in that area. We believe that there'll be no effect on the natural environment. That particular site was used as a fill site and an excavation site. There's a really deep hole in the middle of the property that will have to be filled, so it's to the benefit of having some development there. This facility meets a defined community need. Obviously, fire safety and security is important. And this use provides a service that's necessary for the developing area, and that's one of our areas that is growing the fastest. So staff has recommendations. The first being that the fire station will be responsible for improvements to the entrance and exit areas, drainage, and road access. Those are common, required with development, and we're holding the fire station's development to the same requirements. A landscape plan and a parking plan are required. Drive areas and parking, as well as site lighting, drive areas and the parking as well as site lighting will be shielded so that light cannot escape beyond that which is incidental according to the ordinance. A signage plan will need planning staff approval. A drainage plan will be required, as we've indicated before, as part of the site plan submittal. And with that, staff is recommending approval with those 5 conditions. Are there any questions?
I just wanted to clarify, you mentioned that a fire station or emergency services are allowed by right in this
zoning.
current zoning as
Yes.
it is. So all we're really discussing is the change in the setback,
Basically, the change of the setback, yes,
and that's moving from 75 to 50.
to 50 for the building, yes.
Could you go back to one of those site maps that shows the overall site area? Right there is great.
Okay.
So you mentioned moving the building setback from 75 feet to 50 feet. On which roads are we orienting the setback from?
The setback is on Ben Ficklin.
On Ben Ficklin Road?
When you go back, if I could for just a minute, if you look at A on that map,
Yes,
that
ma'am.
is that 75-foot setback area. And we're wanting to take it down to 50 so that this plan, this fire station can fit on the site with the entrance and exits that are planned.
Okay.
What, don't leave that. What is does it say what the road width is of Ben Ficklin? I don't think it does. Do you know what the
No.
road width is?
I'm sorry.
The width of the road, the pavement?
How wide is Ben Ficklin Road?
I think about 26 to 30 feet, depending on where you're measuring it.
Yeah, the report says 24 feet
24 feet?
Yeah,
is
20,
what the report says.
but I measured it in a couple of other spots, and it's wider than that, so.
Do we know what kind of road, what the classification of that road is? Is it a minor arterial?
I
Is
think
it
it's a minor
local-
collector,
Minor-
per the report.
Okay.
Sherry, I have a question.
Yes.
In the opposition, talked about drainage. Was that the major concern? And I noticed that we have it on the recommendation as well.
I heard that more consistently, that what they're experiencing now is a drainage problem, flooding from what has occurred already in the area, and they're concerned about that. Two people that I did talk to said also the noise that's associated with a fire station.
All right, thank you.
Has the fire department given you a site plan?
I do not have a site plan as of yet. I did include a picture of one of the stations that had that entrance and exit type of approach, but I believe the chief is going to address that also.
Okay. I'm assuming that the orientation of the building would be to the south and not to the west, to Ben Ficklin Road, or is that, do you know that?
I don't
We'll
we'll
them-
ask him, yeah.
Okay, okay. Anyone else have questions for the staff? Thank you, Sherry. All right, we're going to open it up for public comment. Anyone wish to speak on this case, please come forward and state your name and address or single-member district, please.
My name is Steve Hooker. I'm a property owner in Pecan Valley. My two lots back up to the WTU right-of-way. They're numbered 5835 and 5831. I've owned those lots for 30 years. I presently live in Louisville, Texas. I was intending to retire in San Angelo on that land.
Yes, sir.
The drainage is my problem. That's a tract of land that is hitched up to another 70 or 80 acres of stormwater. So it all accumulates to be about 140 acres of stormwater. We are getting, in heavy flood flow, almost 20 acre-foot of water through my property. It has caused my property to be valued at less than $5,000. And I can't build on it because it's a hazard.
Okay.
That's not my objection to this. The roadway is 24 foot wide.
Yes,
I
sir.
measured it. It butts into the crossing, and straight into the crossing is a culvert ditch that drops off 6 foot at the edge of the roadway. It's a hazard.
Yep.
The infrastructure of that part of Ben Ficklin is not set up for the amount of traffic that a fire station would produce. The narrowness of the road causes traffic safety problems. There are 2 blind turns approaching that entranceway. There's a blind hill north of there that fire truck access crosses into the opposite lanes when it exits the crossing. Somebody coming up the hill or around the turn that is speeding and not paying attention, like some people are notorious for, will have a dangerous encounter with a fire truck.
Yes, sir.
I'm not in favor of that condition. I am in favor of getting a fire station in that part of town. 5 years ago, I had a stroke. The fire truck was there within 5 minutes, saved me. So I do know the necessity of the facility, but that lot is not the lot that I think you should choose. And the people of Pecan Valley are concerned with the flood flow that is damaging their property because the water stands 6 inches deep across the land. It softens our roadway, causing detrimental destruction to it. I have visited with the city on numerous occasions, stormwater prevention, stormwater correction, and I don't get responses.
Yes, sir.
The city is blind to Pecan Valley. And we deserve a little more respect and opportunity for our tax dollars to be applied to our area. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hooker. Does anyone else wish to speak on this case?
Good morning, Board. Patrick Brody, Fire Chief.
Good morning.
So I think we'll just start off a little bit of history.
Yes, sir.
So how did we get here? You know, Fire Station number 9 has been part of a long-term strategic plan for the fire department for well over 10 years. And let me go back to this coverage map. Is it forward, Sherry? Forward? Okay, so looking at this coverage map, every one of those circles represents a fire station currently in existence, and there is a glaring hole right in the middle. Anybody can see it. That is Pecan Valley, that's Country Club Lake Estates, that is Grand Canal, Country Club Road, and the need for this fire station has been here for a good while. About 2.5 years ago, Insurance Service Office came in and did our five-year audit of the fire department's adequacy. In their survey, we received a 1X. And what that means is 1 is a superior rating, and that 1X is not a superior rating. That 1X is equivalent to an ISO 10, which means 0 fire department protection. And that area of town that we're talking about, Country Club Lake Estates, is more than 5 road miles from the closest fire station. If you're more than 1,000 feet from the closest fire hydrant, you will also, you'll also receive a 1X. We don't have any area in town that's farther than 1,000 feet from a hydrant, but we do have an area of town more than 5 miles away from the closest fire station. Now, we also brought in a third-party consultant, and his survey, he also had the same analysis done, and his recommendation that if there is not a fire station in this part of town, by the time we have our next evaluation, which is now 2.5 years away, if we do not have a fire station in that area of town, achieving a 1 for the whole city will be impossible. In his recommendation, proposal for Fire Station 9 in the vicinity of Country Club Road and Grand Canal Road, providing for additional fire station deployment and engine company deployment. So that was his recommendation. We had already been looking at this part of town for a fire station, so we began our search. We looked all up and down Country Club Road. We started cold calling, worked with the city real estate office, started cold calling, looking for any available land for sale. There's none for sale. So then we start calling potential sellers. No. Couldn't find anybody willing to sell. We finally found one piece of property on Country Club Road where the owner was entertaining. So we went out and spent over $5,000 for an appraisal. We were getting ready to start negotiating a contract, and at the very end, he backed out, said, not interested in selling. Okay, so then we began our search again. Now, this area at the crossing is not ideal. It is not exactly where I would put a fire station. The place I want to put it is right at the corner of Ratliff Road and Country Club Road. If I had to put a dot on the map, that's where it would go.
Yep.
Now, as we start a fire station, we don't have the luxury of just putting one anywhere. City owns land around that area. It just doesn't work out. It's too close to fire station number 8, which is out by the lake and the airport, or it's too close to fire station number 4, which is out on the south gate of the base. So then we start looking for other available property. And I come across the crossings, and I didn't just say, oh, this is perfect. I went back to the office, I pulled this map up, I put my dot on there. That circle that's represented for each station, that's a 1.5 mile radius, 3-mile circumference of that, or diameter rather, 3-mile diameter. So you really want to be within 1.5 miles of every neighborhood. And you can see the map, there's some areas that are a little farther than that 1.5 mile area.
Yes, sir.
But for the most part, it has pretty decent coverage for the city, with the exception of the southwest corner, or the south of the city. So NFPA 1710 actually recommends a 4-minute response time to any building in the city. So you should have a fire station within 4 minutes, not miles, 4 minutes of a fire station. ISO is 5 miles, 5 road miles from a fire station. And right now, the only area that's outside of that 5 mile is the Country Club Lake Estates. That's why I started looking out there. Now, as we start moving away from that ideal location, it becomes less and less suitable. I landed on the crossings. It still meets our needs for Country Club Lake Estates, still meets our needs for the southern expansion into that new Ratliff Road addition.
Yes, sir.
So historically, fire stations are part of their neighborhood. Historically, fire stations are in a neighborhood. Now, they may not be right in the middle of a neighborhood, but they're very close to residential neighborhood. So once I landed on this property, we really started digging into it, seeing it. I don't have a plot design yet because it's still too early. I don't want to go spend the money for an architect and a planner to put this on the lot until we can get that easement removed, because if that easement stays on there and I can't utilize a drive-through station, then it doesn't work. So we'll talk about station layout, because there are some concerns about the noise pollution, and I totally understand that. I would say that if you don't want to hear sirens in your neighborhood, they're already there. Those sirens are coming into your neighborhood. If you don't want fire trucks driving in, they are already driving in. We have a lot of response out there at Country Club Lake Estates. We have a lot of response on that side of town right now. And that's why the need for this station is so great. So the station will be situated where it faces east towards 277. And we do not have a habit of rolling out of the station and turning on our siren immediately. Why? What's the purpose of a siren and lights? It's to notify other traffic that we're coming. If there's no traffic to notify, we do not hit our siren. 3 o'clock in the morning, we do not hit our siren as soon as we leave the station. We wait till we hit a major road to notify other drivers, and we request the right-of-way. We don't demand it. Okay. Ben Ficklin. It is a fairly narrow road.
Yep.
We have no intentions of utilizing Ben Ficklin. That's why a pull-through station is appealing to me. Come down 277 frontage, circle around the crossings, come in the backside of the station. I would love to be able to use that little piece of land. See that little part that shoots out over to the crossings? I don't know if it's wide enough. I don't know if it's wide enough to accommodate a driveway. And plus, there's that 75 foot, I can't build on it unless it gets amended today. But the plan is to enter through Ben Ficklin, exit onto 277 frontage. There is some concerns about the alerting system, alarms on the outside of the building. You know, years and years ago, we had bells on the outside of the building, and every time a call came in, those bells would go off, and it made a lot of noise. Well, modern technology, our new alerting system, it's all digital now. We can control the volume. We can control the time of day that those speakers broadcast outside. We can make them where they don't broadcast outside at all. because every one of our members have an app on their phone. They receive the alert on their phone before it ever hits the fire station. So I don't have to have those speakers on the outside of that station come on. Also, we're actually pretty good neighbors. You know, we keep our property very clean, and the only time we're really outside is first thing in the morning whenever we're checking out our trucks, and it's just an engine running, and that's going to be on the 277 side. There's some issues about drainage. I'm not going to even begin to say that I know anything about it, but what I would say is this is going to be an excellent opportunity for the city to attempt to address the drainage issue. Because right now, there's not a plan to address the drainage issue. Now we'll have a comprehensive drainage study done prior to construction, hopefully remedy or completely eliminate this drainage issue for Pecan Valley. Pecan Valley does sit way down below the roadway.
Yes, sir.
And I know that's part of the problem with the drainage, and I'm not a professional engineer. So another concern that I've heard is a decrease in your property value. I would love to see the resource information on that, because I'm not a real estate agent, but I've done some research, and what I found out that fire station in your neighborhood actually increases your property value. It absolutely, fact, it helps you with your insurance. That's the whole reason why I strive so hard to keep an ISO 1 rating for our city. If we don't have a fire station in this neighborhood in 2.5 years, we will drop to a 2 for the entire city, which means about commercial, I believe it's 2% increase, and residential, a 1% increase. And that's all other factors not being considered. Okay. I wish I had a better location. I already told you, this was not the best spot where I wanted to build, but this is one, I'm running out of options at this point, and I got 2.5 years to get a station built. So, y'all have any other questions for me?
I have a couple of questions.
Yes, sir.
You mentioned an easement, trying to have an easement removed. Can you explain where that is, what that looks like?
That easement is that little sliver of land, the 75-foot setback. Where am I at here? It's here it's right there. So if you look at the picture, the A, that little sliver that's on the west side of the property.
Yes, sir.
That's the setback. I called it an easement, 75-foot setback, where nothing can be built on it.
Okay.
And a curb cut on Ben Ficklin is not possible.
Is that setback or easement outlined within the PD or
It was
outside of the PD?
It was established by the plan development. It was established in 2002 when this came to existence. And so when the property was replatted, it reflected that easement, if you will, through there of no build and no access.
Okay. You touched on a couple of other things, the drainage. I understand your point. I know that the city has stringent requirements on stormwater detention and drainage and mitigation, and I expect that you guys will meet those requirements in order to obtain a building permit. So I'm not overly concerned about that. I am concerned about the neighbors talking about floodwater going through their neighborhood, but as it relates to this specific property, I think that it's important for you guys to meet the requirements of stormwater drainage and not contribute to the problem. Maybe with a good plan for this site, we begin to address some of the problems that the adjacent properties are dealing with. The water is going to the river to the west.
Correct.
Downhill. So the other thing you've touched on that I think is really relevant here is the way the traffic is going to circulate through this site.
Yes, sir.
So I believe you're indicating that the fire station would be oriented to the east facing.
If it's not facing east, this property is not, I'm not interested in this property.
Okay, so you have curb cuts and access on the US 87 frontage road.
I have to get authorization from the DOT to get curb cuts on that. I believe there's some preliminary conversations with them, and they said that they're entertaining being able to approve those as well.
Okay. But you would also need access off of Ben Ficklin to pull the truck through the fire station?
As an entrance into the property, and yes, sir, and that's ultimately why we're here today, is to this setback to allow curb cuts on the Ben Ficklin side and a driveway to be constructed over that buffer zone. I have no intention on pushing that fire station back to that 50-foot buffer or 75-foot buffer on the Ben Ficklin side.
Right.
It'll be more oriented towards the 277 side, push that direction.
Yes, sir.
We will have a service ramp on the front side of the station. But my main intention for the variance of this buffer zone is so I can have a pull-through station.
Okay. That makes sense.
And parking, I don't have an intention on putting parking right on the property line. Absolutely not. I need to be able to utilize that little bitty cutout that goes over to the crossings, that little section for
Yes, sir.
something. Is that going to be parking? Is that going to be a generator? I don't exactly know yet until we start, situating the facility on the property and see how it fits, and then moving things backwards and forwards.
Okay.
So,
I understand.
okay. But if you go back to that intersection right off of the loop, at the loop and where Ben Ficklin goes to the right and 277 frontage goes straight.
Yes, sir.
There's no reason for us to go right down that narrow road when we can go around 277 frontage. And if we're returning from like a gas plant or Old Cristoval Road, we're going to come right over the crossings, continue on, take a right on Ben Ficklin and go, 20 feet to the entrance and then turn into the station. That's how it's laid out in my mind as of right now.
Okay. Mr. Hooker that came up and spoke talked about the blind hill. I'm familiar.
There's an S turn on Ben Ficklin. I was actually driving it this last week, and I have some friends that live out in Wilkie Downs.
Yes, sir.
This isn't a gloom and doom type of conversation, but if y'all recall, about 2 years ago maybe, there was a fire out in Wilkie Downs.
Okay.
Started as a grass fire, to a fence fire, to a house fire. It's 8 minutes for us to get to the country club.
That's
8
an eternity.
minutes. And like I said, it was a grass fire, fence fire, house fire, and that house is still sitting vacant today. Okay? And it should have never gotten that far.
Right.
We should be on scene in less than 5 minutes. Now, the coverage for Pecan Valley, a lot of the community is correct. We do provide coverage for Pecan Valley. It's right at the very edge of the threshold of that coverage. They're 3 miles from the closest fire station, which is number 4, south gate of the base. Let's pretend all traffic considerations are perfect. Takes 6 minutes to get there. I drove it. Takes 6 minutes to get there. Now put in lights and sirens and you don't have to stop for red lights, maybe 5.5.
Right.
5.5 minutes when your house is on fire. And how about this that we're not even talking about? The medical side of it. 5.5 minutes when you're not breathing is a really, really long time.
Yes.
And how beneficial would it be whenever you have a emergency medical, highly trained medical care right across the street from you? So.
Okay. Does anyone else have questions for Chief Brody? Thank you. Thank you very much.
Chairman, I have kind of a question, or maybe Chief Brody can maybe help us with this just a
Yes,
little
sir.
bit. So our Station 1, of course, Bryant is a major, major road that goes right by it. And there are some warning signalization there. I don't know how feasible that makes any sense on Ben Ficklin, if it does at all. Since you're not really exiting for emergencies that way, you're entering into the station that way.
Right, and seeing those warning devices, they would go off when the alarm would come in. So returning to the station is where we would be coming in the backside of the street. And coming into the station, that is no lights, no sirens, due caution, due regard for safety coming back in. So just like driving around every street in town.
Right.
And I'd say, well, Ben Ficklin's not suitable for a fire truck. Fire truck's driving on it right now.
Yeah.
Whenever we have an emergency in that area, it's driving on it right now.
Right.
Thank you, Chief.
Yes, sir.
Yes, thank you, sir. Yes, sir. Please come on up.
May I readdress? I was in the 2003, 2002 planning session,
Yes, sir.
and there were stipulations that this land would be taken proper care of. That I had some concerns with water back at on those days.
Sure.
The planning commission agreed, but they went forward with the plan saying, we'll take care of it. Well, that 75-foot easement is a buffer zone.
Yes, sir.
You know, it's a noted buffer zone.
Yes, sir.
When the city accepted this plan, they called it a permanently zoned area, office warehouse. I'm not sure whether a fire truck is conditioned for an office warehouse.
Yeah, I think they've already addressed that by saying that a fire station is allowed by right in any of our zoning districts.
Okay.
The issue that we're really dealing with, as you've indicated, is the setback, the 75-foot setback easement, right-of-way, whatever it is, how it was delineated in the PD.
Right. It was for the residents along Ben Ficklin.
Of course.
To not have, you know, everything going on right up
Yes, sir.
against the road. I was out there yesterday evening. Whoever's taking care of that land, it's atrocious. It's almost a trash pit.
Right.
There is surrounding vegetation along almost every culvert, entrance, exit.
Right.
I don't know how the stormwater is working proactively with the land and the citizens.
Right.
That there's not enough city attention, city hall attention to make it right. Everybody with an acre of land doesn't think that their water matters that much. But you put 140 acres together, and that's a ton of water.
It is.
And if it's not productively tended, it becomes a disaster downstream.
And just to clarify, I think one of the problems development-wise within our community that we're dealing with today is the lack of attention that may have been put or focus on stormwater mitigation and detention many, many years ago. And I think that the city's taken appropriate steps to control stormwater runoff on future development. It's going to be addressed with this development and any other development that comes in. We've got detention bonds that are built with subdivisions now that weren't required or built many years ago. And so the challenge is that we have a lot of problems that were created by the lack of a proper stormwater plan, and we're still dealing with those. Is it reasonable to put more requirements and cost on a developer of this site because of the city's oversight in years past, or is it reasonable to allow them to address their stormwater on their lot just like everybody else is today? So,
Everybody else before has said, well, it's just stormwater.
right,
Let Steve take care of it.
right.
You know, that's,
Let the next guy deal with it.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's poor thinking.
Yes, sir.
I appreciate your attention. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hooker. All right, anyone else wish to speak on this case? All right, I'm going to close public comment and take thoughts or emotion. Personally, I understand the need for a fire station, and Chief Brody touched on some of the challenges of this site. The area that he identified, maybe a little bit further south, would be ideal and wouldn't have a lot of the challenges that this site faces. I personally would like to see a little bit more information on the orientation of the site and the improvements and the circulation of the traffic as we consider approving this change. But those are my thoughts. Anyone else have thoughts they want to share?
Yeah, I don't disagree at all with the need for a station in that area. Obviously, I'm struggling with putting a fire station on abutting a 24-foot road. And at the same time reducing the setback in half of where it's at today. I know that that's a narrow road with a lot of curves in it and elevation change, and that's obviously a challenge. I am glad to hear Chief Brody thought process there, and I think that he's done a lot to try to address that. And I think he's well aware of the challenges with that side as well. But I wish there was another location in that area.
Yeah, I think what Chief Brody brought up though with the danger, the safety, and more importantly, the amount of time. You know, we're down, this is not something that he started today and,
No.
you know, it's been a long-term process.
Yes, sir.
We're down to the wire again, and I do believe with all the growth that, you know, we need to do something now strictly because of the danger we're putting our citizens in. You know, I do believe we do need to monitor it to make sure that the orientation that you talked about, the location of the building. I'm not real concerned about Beneficland because, as he said, that is a way to get the trucks in and so that he can have a push through. I don't believe they'll be using it, you know, for emergency process. So I guess he impressed me with his thought process, and I do believe that he's going into this with totally open eyes, and he knows what he's facing and the challenges. So I like the plan myself.
I also think it'll do a great service to help pick that area up. They have built a building right in front of it, but behind it's just challenging because if nobody's doing anything with it, it gets neglected. But I know it's not the ideal place, but I know we need it, and I think that's what Brody is after. And so I'll make a motion to approve as presented.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So 5-0. Lost my agenda. There we go. All right, so now we're on to conditional uses. The Planning Commission has final authority for approval of conditional uses. Appeals may be directed to the City Council. CU 2420-418 South Adams, a request for a conditional use to allow short-term rental in a single-family residential zoning district.
Good morning, Ray Lineberry, planner. This is a request for conditional use for a short-term rental. However, it was previously a short-term rental. They let it expire. They didn't realize they had to come back to us. So it has actually been operating for 3 years. It had a conditional use for a year, came back for renewal, and got the 2 years. So this is in District 5, Karen Hesse Smith, Santa Rita neighborhood, single-family residential, and the safety inspection was passed. There's a lot of stars on this one.
Wow.
It is the Santa Rita neighborhood. There are 8 green that are operating, have the CU and was inspected. There was 2 that received a CU that has not been inspected. We have been in contact with him. He actually has applied for the inspection, but he's trying to get it finished. It is within their first year still. And then there was 3 denied and 6 expired, so a total of 9 red ones. We mailed out 18 notices. It says 1 in opposition, but I received 3 more this morning in email. 2 of them just checked the box opposed. 1 of them does not want an STR near them, is not happy with a revolving door. Staff is recommending approval with the following condition that they follow the conditions outlined in the amended ordinance that was passed recently. With that, is there any questions?
Anyone have questions for the staff?
You said they were operating prior. Were there any incidents?
There was not. No code compliance complaints and no police reports. And they are current on their hotel taxes. And in fact, that was what triggered this, is they were paying, and finance said, well, you don't have a conditional use. So, okay.
Okay. Thank you. I'm going to open it up for public comment. Anyone wish to speak on this case, please come forward. State your name and address or single-member district.
Good morning. My name is Chris Kinsey. I live at 1119 Live Oak. So there's one property between my house and the subject property. My experience over the last 3 years has been quite different. So there have been several incidents. So first of all, when you think of a short-term rental, right? I'm a consumer. I've used short-term rentals. We've traveled, we've done things. We use that service. And you think of a nice family on vacation, somebody coming to look at the community. Well, that's not been our experience with this property. What we see probably 75% of the time is a commercial use, right? Companies are renting this property. We see heavy equipment on trailers, right, blocking the street, preventing parking. You see most of the companies or most of the individuals who rent this property seem to work in the energy industry. If you'll look, the property is marketed with a pool table and a hot tub. Okay, I checked this morning, and the rental rates on the property are $229 a night. So they say maximum 6 occupants. So a person can rent this property with 6 coworkers a lot less than you can rent a hotel, right? Have a pool table, we have a hot tub. So we've experienced that as a very negative impact to our neighborhood, right? Not just the traffic impact, but just the people. I have a text message from the neighbor that's right across from this property I'd like to read to you as well. He was one of them in opposition. So this is from Gabriel and Kim Lucky at 424 South Adams. Said, I've had several incidents involving this Airbnb, 3 of which involved the SAPD. The first incident was due to 3 men catcalling at my wife, inviting her over to play pool, drink, and party. The second and third incidents were due to peeping over my backyard and whistling at my family while we were swimming. Items and trash are constantly being thrown over the fence. I have an 8-foot privacy fence. The last time this happened was on Friday, 7/12. That's July the 12th. If they don't have a permit, they're still leasing the property right now. I mean, the property is occupied this morning. I drove by it this morning. More times than not, there are several cars, large work trailers, which is what we've experienced, lined up on the streets, preventing us from parking our usual spots. Many of the trailers leave mud and debris and trash along the streets that we have to clean up. Beer cans are a common thing thrown into our backyard. Late night parties, right? Due to this is during the week, mind you, because it seems to be much more of a commercial application than a residential application. This is Gabe, part of the text. I just feel that our quiet, beautiful neighborhood is no place for these short-term rentals, a neighbor in which we all take pride in. As we speak, there's waist-high weeds in the front yard. It's been neglected, junk in between the 2 houses. I reached out several times, this is Gabe again, trying to contact the owner and notify them. I've had no luck in response. So we are very opposed to you reapproving this property. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
Jamal Shumpert, single member district number 3. I would like to note that if they're renting out 6 rooms, it's more than 2 additional off-street parking. I think it's 3 or 4 off-street parking if they're renting out 6 rooms. Thank you.
Thank you.
I was just going to try to see if we can see the parking there also. Maybe zoom in.
You did have a view of the front of the house that has a garage.
Oh, yeah. It's true.
So does the garage count?
Yes.
If there's stuff in the garage, does it count?
Seeing as we can't know that.
Okay. So that's 2 spaces
And then
in the
driveway.
garage, plus the driveway is another 2 spaces.
Yes,
So there's 4 spaces off-street for this one?
yes.
Okay.
And
Does
I will
anyone
s-
else wish to speak publicly on this one?
I will say the owner was trying to be here, but he was not able. I got an email late last night saying he was not able to make it. He is out of town at the moment.
Okay. So this is the problem with short-term rentals. We've got an out-of-town owner, we don't have local representation, we got customers that are, or neighbors, excuse me, that are upset, and we're having a hearing to renew these guys, and no one's here to answer questions. I'm inclined to continue this one personally. I don't feel comfortable approving it with what the neighbors raised as concerns. Waist high weeds, I'm assuming code compliance could go by and look at it.
I would like, sorry. to
No,
interrupt,
please, go
but
ahead.
They stated that the SAPD was called?
Yes.
But yet, we don't have a report of that. Can we look into that further? I mean, I'm just curious.
Yes, we can. We can
I'm
certainly-
sorry, I'm going to close public comment while we continue.
Thank you, Chairman. But yes, I do agree that we should send code enforcement by. We should investigate a little bit more with SAPD to see what that call was about, what kind of report they did write up. Sounds like if there are heavy vehicles being parked, that's also a code item that they can go and check on. If there's mud being left behind, that's a stormwater item that stormwater can go and check on. Stormwater typically monitors all of those construction sites, and you're not supposed to pull your construction vehicles off with mud and trail it through town, and so they can go and check on those types of things. So we'd be happy to go back and do some more looking and investigation on this one if that's y'all's desire.
Okay.
So while code enforcement is there, since they don't currently have a conditional use to operate an STR, would that not also be a violation?
Yes, they should stop operating immediately.
Okay. Does anyone want to make a motion on this one?
I'll make a motion to deny and to bring back to us once we've been able to investigate those items that we just discussed.
Okay.
I think we were going,
If we do that, they can't come back for a year. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So we want to continue?
table?
Yeah,
Or table it?
Are you
Okay,
wanting to
table
table for more information?
Yeah. So change mine to table instead of deny.
Okay.
Thank you.
Do you want to continue it to the next meeting, or does that
I would
give
need
the
input.
staff
How long would it
appropriate
take?
time?
How long would it take for you to investigate? 30 days?
I would rather us come, I mean, we're going to send folks out and they're going to be able to investigate in the next 10 days. We can get with SAPD within the next 10 days, so we should be able to get it on our next agenda.
Okay.
Very good.
So we have a motion and a second to continue this to the next meeting, to the August Planning Commission meeting.
One question, Aaron, you said you could do that like in 10 days, excuse me. Does that also mean that you'll notify them to cease and desist right now?
Yes, ma'am, we'll do that today.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? It's 5-0 to table it. All right. Next item. CU 1503, amendment, SAISD, a request to amend conditional use, CU 1503, to add an additional lot on the approved concept plan for portable school buildings on a residential lot located at 302 Cottonwood.
Rayline Berry again, planner. This one is to amend the current PD that was done in 2015. The current PD encompasses the whole school area, but it did not include this lot. This lot was recently platted into just one instead of all those little individual ones. And it is in District 4, Lucy Gonzalez Central Neighborhood, and it is RS1 zoning.
Ray, I'm sorry to interrupt, but you meant conditional use, right? Not a planned development?
Conditional use, yes. Did I say plan development? Oh, I'm sorry. This is a conditional use amendment. We did mail out 24 notices. We received 0 in favor. We did receive 3 phone calls in opposition. Two of them are in opposition because of the traffic and the kids walking across their lawn. It's bringing the school closer to them. The other one agreed with those, however, did not want portable buildings in front of their house.
Okay.
This is a picture of the site currently. These are the buildings that will be moved on. There's two of each being moved on the property. They will be painted to match Central, the main building, so they will look similar. This is the current site plan and landscape plan that they handed in. It does have sidewalks, crosswalks. It is facing the school, so the back of the buildings will be towards the houses. There is not a fence shown on the site plan, but asking the school, they did have plans to put in a fence. However, since it is RS1 zoning, it would require the fence be 25 foot from Cottonwood Street, from the property line. That's considered the front.
Okay.
So we are recommending approval, adding the lot into the conditional use to be included. The development shall be consistent with the attached site plan that they gave us. Any development shall also be consistent with section 422. That is the school ordinance, and it requires crosswalks, sidewalks, that it looks similar to other school buildings in the area, and that they also provide us with the landscaping, sidewalks, and crosswalks, which they have. With that, is there any questions?
Any questions for the staff? Thank you, Ray. Let's open it up for public comment. Does anyone wish to speak on this case? Please come forward and state your name and address or single member district.
Jamal Shumpert, single member district number 3. I'm not saying I'm in favor or against this, but it would be nice to know what type of classrooms would be over there. Because if they put all DAEP students over there and they start vandalizing the neighborhood, you will have a lot more phone calls and a lot more problems. So that's why I would say it would be nice to know what type of classrooms they're putting over there.
The type of classrooms?
Yeah, because
Okay.
I know it's not CTE. CTE would have caused a problem early morning, grinding on metal, maybe be too loud for those people, but it's not CTE. It's classrooms, like they said. But just be nice if it wasn't DAEP right next to the neighborhood, right next to those homes. Thank you.
Thank you, Jamal. All right. Anyone else wish to speak on this case?
Good morning. Appreciate the opportunity to be with you this morning. Merle Brandon, Assistant Superintendent, SAISD, and Jason Henry, Director of Purchasing and Project Manager. Kind of like the chief said, we do want, we want to be a good neighbor. I think one of the concerns was the picture of just a lot of students exiting to the west toward the homes. What we would like to do is fence the area. We want to control the access to the property as much as what they would. And so our expectation is that students would enter and exit toward the central side of the property. So we would fence at least 3 sides, if not all of the property, certainly open, once we come back for permit to that, what that looks like, so that, we can work in conjunction with the homeowners. We want it to look nice. I can't give you an exact timeline. There's certainly an opportunity to go out for bond. The goal being to have all of our students there. There's been some conversation, how we've lost instructional time, trying to bus students back and forth from Oaks. And so this is a way for us to get the remaining students from Oaks there, other than a few CTE classes. So I think in clarification of the question a while ago, our goal here are just classrooms that would be core subject, whatever that is, speech, health, English, math. We do intend to have a school resource officer patrolling that area for safety students, just like you'd see a benefit for the neighborhood. And then we also plan to have an administrator within those portable buildings. So it's not a DAP, it's not a CTE center or something like that. These are going to be regular classrooms. Mr. Henry can speak to maybe the design that might relieve some concerns there as well.
Anytime we move into a neighborhood, our first intention is to be the best neighbor that they're going to have in that area. Just a few of the things that we bring with moving into that area, increased security, as Mr. Brandon explained, with our RSOs that will be patrolling that area. We are adding additional sidewalks throughout the neighborhood that are not present at this time. We'll also have an extensive security camera system that goes along with any educational facility that we have, which has been used in numerous times for additional security for the neighborhood. Some of the improvements that we're making to the lot, there are a couple scraggly mesquite trees on the lot currently, but we're going to add lots of landscaping, including 4 live oak trees, 3 desert willows. We're going to put some boulders around the property as well. And then we're also painting it to match the Sousa building, which are fall within the historical committee as well. And we're going to make sure it doesn't, I know the picture had the orange or blue trim. We're going to make sure it's not orange. You're not going to see orange and blue buildings inside the neighborhood. It's going to match the surrounding buildings as well.
Okay. That's great. I know these are temporary buildings, and I think one of the concerns the neighborhood raised was putting portable buildings on a site. Do you have any idea? I know that you're moving kids over from the Oaks campus. This is probably in part an experiment to make sure that this is going to work long term for the school district, but. And I'm assuming you're going to probably need to raise money to build permanent facilities. Do you have an indication of time frame for how long these buildings might be placed on this location before permanent structures are constructed?
You know, anytime, if the board were to call for a bond and us, SASD actually do that, I would say, honestly, there's a 2 to 3 year. By the time you pass a bond, fund a bond, plan, there would be several months of planning before we ever got to that point. So I wouldn't want to say that it would be before then, but certainly the goal will be, construction in that area so that we can relieve or move the portables at some point. It's certainly not a long-term plan for the district.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Was there going to be any parking anywhere near that, or is that just that, looks like you've got a center area between them, a U shape?
That's a good question. There will not be parking on that lot, so there will not be traffic, cars in and out of that area. We have plenty of parking on the east and then also to the south.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else wish to speak on this case? All right, I'm going to close public comment and take thoughts or emotion.
I'll move to approve as presented.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve as presented. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? 5-0. Thank you, guys. Subdivision plats. The Planning Commission has final authority for approval. Appeals may be directed to the City Council. FP 2413, Los Lomas Edition. Request for final plat, one lot with the size of 1 acre, located at 7698 South Country Club Road in Ranch and Estate zoning for the development of a single-family home, including a variance request for paving width.
Thank you. Austin Reed, planner. This is a final plat for one lot over 1 acre. We are in District Number 1, Tommy Heber's district in the Nasworthy neighborhood. The zoning here is ranch and estate, and the vision plan holds it to be neighborhood. This is an empty lot where we're looking to build a single-family residence. So you did briefly hear this last month, but they requested a 30-day waiver to give them a chance to request a zoning variance for a lot width. They did receive approval of that variance. You can see it's 100 feet wide by about 435 feet long. There is one variance request for the paving width on South Country Club Road. It's currently about 25 feet depending on where you measure it, whereas the minimum required for a major collector is 36 feet. There is no right-of-way width as the road is technically city property. With that, we are recommending approval with the following 4 conditions and 1 note. That they provide staff with a tax certificate, they provide plans for the improvement of South Country Club Road or receive the variance, that they get a drainage study and install the necessary water service line to the lot. And the 1 note is that the building line on the plat currently shows RS1 standards. It should be updated to show range and estate standards. With that, if you have any questions.
Anyone have questions for the staff? Thank you, Austin.
Thank you.
We're going to open it up for public comment.
Hello again, Erica Wilde with Wilde Engineering and Surveying. I am here to request that you please approve as presented and here for any questions.
Any questions for Erica? Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak on this case? I'm going to close public comment and take thoughts or a motion.
Move to approve as presented.
We have a motion and a second to approve as presented. All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 5-0. RP 2408, Scott Schertz subdivision, request for approval of a first replat of Block 1. Scott Schertz subdivision being all of Lot 1 and the west 2,500 square feet of Lot 2, Block 1, plus 7,565 square feet of abandoned North Sellers Street right-of-way, and a variance on paving width of 22 feet.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sherry Bailey, Principal Planner. As you indicated, they are requesting approval for Scott Schultz subdivision. It is in a single-family residential district. It's in District 3, Harry Thomas, and in the Glenmore neighborhood. I wanted to get to the, as you can see on the, it is this piece of property, and they are absorbing the right-of-way that was Sellers, that Sellers was abandoned. This is Sellers, and there is no continuation past this block. So it makes sense for them to do that. They purchased it a number of years ago and are just now getting around to absorbing it into their piece of property. Staff is recommending that you approve the plat and approve the paving width variance plus 1 condition, which is the tax cert. That variance is about 4 feet, and it includes not requiring the curb and gutter on that. On that side of the street, there is no curb and gutter all along, and it wouldn't make sense to just have curb and gutter for this one lot. It's just 4 foot of additional paving. That also would not make sense for just that one lot. It's pretty well developed in that area, and if it wasn't for the Sellers absorbing that right away, they wouldn't be in front of you. So staff is recommending approval.
Okay. Any questions for the staff? Thank you, Sherry. I open it up for public comment. Anyone wish to speak on this case? Seeing none, I'm going to close public comment and take a motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second by Mr. Aguirre to approve as presented. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? 5-0. RP 2410, Avondale Addition, Block 6. Request to replat Avondale Addition, Block 6, lots 30 through 33 in the 2-family zoning district located at approximately 1628 to 1640 Beacon Street. And a request for variance on North Marie Street for no curb and gutter. Administrative variances were granted for paving width on both Beacon, and Marie Streets.
Thank you. Austin Reed Planner. This is a replat for one lot over .3 acres. This is District Number 4, Lucy Gonzalez's district in the Pauline neighborhood. The zoning for these lots is RS2, and the vision plan holds it to be transitional. So as it stands, what you see is actually 4 skinny lots right now. They're looking to combine it into one big lot. There's currently 2 duplexes that were already built. The width of this lot is about 105 feet by 130 feet, and it is a corner lot off of both Beacon and North Marie. This did come to you as a plat probably a few months ago where they looked to plat it into 2 lots. I don't think that was ever recorded. Now they're back to plat it into 1 lot instead. So there is 1 variance request for curb and gutter on North Marie Street, as you can see in the picture. We think it functions fine without it. The paving width variances were already granted administratively for both streets. With that, we are recommending approval of the plat and approval of the variance request with the following 3 conditions: that they provide staff with a tax certificate, that they provide plans for curb and gutter on North Marie or receive the variance, and finally, a condition that they submit for and receive approval of a zone change from RS2 to RM1, just because there will be the 2 duplexes on 1 lot, and that requires RM1 zoning. The applicant should be aware of this condition, and I think that that is their intention. Are there any questions?
Has this been platted before?
So I'm guessing the long skinny lots were platted a very long time ago. Like I said, they were here a few months ago to plat those 4 skinny lots into 2 lots with 1 duplex on each.
Are you talking about 25 to 29? Or?
No, so there were 4 skinny lots here. You can probably see it on this.
Yeah.
You can kind of see the lines on there.
I just wanted to be clear.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. So we have 2 duplexes, which necessitates RM zoning because it's 4 units. Okay? All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to open it up for public comment. Anyone wishing to speak on this case, please come forward.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Blake with Wilde Engineering and Surveying. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. But the reason why we're coming back to you from 2 lots now to 1 is the person is selling this, and the person that's buying it requested it all to be 1 lot. So we're going through that process, making it 1 lot. We understand it'll have to be zoned for RM1. We have that coming next month. So, any questions or anything else? So.
Any questions? Thank you, Mr. Wilde. Anyone else wish to speak on this case? I'm going to close public comment and take thoughts or a motion.
Move to approve as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve as presented. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 5-0. RP 2411, Frarey's Edition, Block 4. Request to subdivide property into 2 lots located at the southwest corner of Harris Avenue and East Beauregard, creating 2 lots for new construction and an infill area.
Good morning, Planning Commissioners. Aaron Benoit, Director of Planning and Development Services. This morning we do have this replat here in Block 4 of the Ferries or Forays Edition. I've been calling it all kinds of names. It is a replat of .374 acres. The zoning currently is RM1 low-rise multifamily. It is at the corner of East Harris and East Beauregard. It's in SMD3, Mr. Harry Thomas, and in the Fort Concho East neighborhood. You can see the Concho River there to the south, and you see how Beauregard, this is the end of Beauregard on the east end of town, and how at some point over the history of Beauregard, they said, okay, let's curve it up in here to Harris, and Harris was the major road going to the east. And so what it did is it came and cut this old plat in a weird shape, and so now we have someone that's coming back to build a couple of homes there and recreate these little portions and pieces of lots into 2 lots. And I'll show you how they're going to accomplish that. So here they're going to have lot 1, I think that's 1A or 7A and 8A, I believe that is, because they were 7, 8, 9, and 10. And so you can see lot 7 and lot 8A. Lot 8A due to its shape. You can see it's quite a bit wider at the front on the Harris, but again, that's Beauregard that comes across there on the backside and kind of cuts those lots off. They do actually meet the RM1 zoning standard and do conform to that. You can see that Beauregard's on the back. They will be placing the 25-foot setback line along Beauregard, but we have talked with them as well as the builder, and they're going to be fronting houses onto to Harris and not to Beauregard is their intent, and we will probably be taking a case to the Zoning Board of Adjustment to allow for a different setback there on that rear so that they actually have enough rear yard setback. But for RM1 zoning district, they do meet the size for those.
Is it 25 feet on the front presently?
I think it's 50 feet on the, are you asking how the width is or the double frontage lot?
I'm asking about setbacks. So
correct.
The line that's delineated, it looks like on Harris, is that 25 feet?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Yep.
It is.
And you're saying there's 25 feet on Beauregard as well?
According to our zoning ordinance, yes.
Okay. Wow.
And so that would make this lot over here a very challenging.
Yes.
And so we understand that. We realize that Beauregard came across, cut these lots a long time ago. We're just trying to do an infill project here that the orientation and the shape of the lots have kind of created a hardship for that to move forward to the Zoning Board of Adjustment.
So you may look at both the Harris and Beauregard setbacks.
Potentially, we would look at the others along that road, which we have not done yet until we see kind of a floor plan, but we would take that into consideration.
Okay, thank you.
With that, staff does recommend approval. We do have 3 conditions and 3 notes. Again, just provide the tax certificate, install the necessary utility services to those 2 new lots. And Harris is actually an arterial, a minor arterial, and so our subdivision ordinance and the zoning being RM1 does require it to have a sidewalk, but just along the Harris area, not along the Beauregard. And then there's just those notes. Again, we talked about the 25-foot building line. The driveway access may be limited on West Beauregard because of that major curve. While it's not a heavily trafficked road, it still causes some challenges and some sightline issues, so we would try to restrict that. Usually we try to restrict on arterials, but in this case it makes a lot more sense to have those driveways off of the front of facing Harris as opposed to Beauregard. And the property is located in the River Corridor Design District. However, if they do choose to use an RS1 design as a single-family home, they are exempt from the River Corridor Design District. If they choose to do multifamily, then they would be subject to those design criteria. With that, any questions?
The replat that's proposed, does it change the underlying zoning or does it?
It does not at this time.
So
now RM1 zoning is our most flexible residential zoning, that it allows all the way from single-family structures up to low-rise multifamily structures.
yes.
They do not plan to do 0 lot line on these. They do plan to do a single-family structure on this. And that's why lot 7A is a 50-foot wide lot.
Is there a minimum lot size for RM?
There is, it just depends on which structure type you're doing, and it's 5,000 square feet for the RS1 style house,
Yes.
single-family house, and both of those lots meet that currently.
What is it for a 4-unit structure or a duplex?
I think duplex is 6,500 square feet.
Okay.
I believe. I would have to check to see what a quad would be. I'm not sure.
Okay.
I want to say 10,000 square feet, but I'm not sure.
I would support single family with what's proposed. I would be concerned about maybe allowing multifamily development on these smaller lots.
Correct, and that's their intention is single-family housing.
Okay.
We feel very strongly that's their intent. They're not looking to do anything multifamily on these 2 lots. Now, the zoning does allow that. They would have challenges with setbacks and fitting everything in and parking and all of those things if you chose to do, because your parking ratio goes up as opposed to single family. And so we feel very comfortable that that's their intent.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Anyone else have questions for the staff? All right. We're going to open it up for public comment.
Good morning, Blake with Wilde Engineering and Surveying here again. Like Aaron said, yes, they're planning on doing RS1 single family right here. And like he mentioned, they're also looking at going to the Zoning Board of Adjustments to get that setback on Beauregard reduced to 5 feet. But just looking to put 2 single family homes on here and take care of the housing issue. So any questions?
Anyone else? Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Wilde. Anyone else wish to speak on this case?
Jamal Shumper, single member District 3. A few months ago, we were talking about neighborhood revitalization. I'm in favor of this because it does revitalize our neighborhood. I stay in the neighborhood. Most people want to remodel their homes in our neighborhood, and they're older. I get that. But this guy's talking about building a new one. I am in favor of it. And it has a sidewalk with it, so thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shumpert. Anyone else wish to speak? All right, I'm going to close public comment and take thoughts or emotion.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? 5-0. RP 2412, Lasker's Addition, Block 15, lots 8 through 10. Request to replat a property at approximately 1621 North Chadbourn from 3 lots into 2 with RM1 low-rise multifamily zoning and a historic overlay zoning located at 1621 North Chadbourn.
Thank you, Chairman. Aaron Vanoy, Director of Planning and Development Services. So this is a replat, Lasker's Addition, Block 15, lots 8, 9, and 10. They're looking to replat it into 2 lots. I have that large overhead there. You can see the property there just outlined in red and has the red roof. It is almost half an acre. It is currently zoned low-rise multifamily, and it has a historic overlay zoning to it. Address 1621 North Chadbourn, SMD 4, Lucy Gonzalez, and in the Reagan neighborhood. But as we all know, Chadbourn is one of our major thoroughfares. Normally we consider it as a commercial corridor. However, you see right here between 16th and 18th, that neighborhood does kind of come in there. There's not that many bigger buildings right there. That's mostly housing in those areas, while some of those have converted into maybe some businesses and still have a residential look. This property is a very large, prominent property along that street that has gone into some decline. So we're actually very happy that someone's taking an interest in this property and going to start doing something with it. So here is the plat. You can see lot, and let me see if I can get this to work again. Lot 10A over here is going to be a separate lot. You can see it is 50 feet by 100. Their intent is a single-family home there, not a multifamily, unless they've changed, but that's the intent. That's why it's the 5,000 square feet. It is RM1 zoning. I just wanted to remind you of that again. But that is their intent of that lot there. This here with the multi-story residence lot A, 8A, they tend to do some repair and some work on that and get it back to a better living state. And then back here where this concrete pad is, that used to be the coach house. As we understand, there was a tree somewhere in this area that fell during a storm in the last year, and they demoed the building. There does need to be a process to go through to demo or to get the approval to demo that building because it was a historic structure. You'll see that as a condition, but that should not be a condition of the plat. I shouldn't condition the plat, a subdivision ordinance on something that's on the historic overlay. So we will strike through that condition, just to clarify. The other thing on this, if you'll notice, it actually already has sidewalks you'll see that one of the conditions is sidewalks. We actually went out and did a walk on those sidewalks. They're in actually really good condition for as long as they've been there. And so we're going to strike that condition from the requirement of the plat as well. So with that, we do recommend approval. I do have 4 conditions there, but we are going to go ahead and strike number 3. And it looks like I did already strike it on the slides for the sidewalk. It's probably in the report. It may say sidewalks, but we are striking that there are no sidewalk requirement on this plat. So again, provide tax certificate, install the necessary utility service connections to that new lot. Just so that we're kind of clear on the plat itself, if we're going to just ask them to just relabel that as the coach house, as technically we see it as a structure. At some point, it may not be a structure as opposed to the slab. The 3 notes, I just wanted to make sure that everybody was aware of these, as well as the applicant, as well as the public. But we will not issue any building permits for Lot 10A. That's the new lot until we resolve everything on the original lot for the certificate of appropriateness for the coach house, whether it be restored or they approve a demo permit. That's simply a process of going in front of the Design and Historic Review Commission. The other 2, we wanted to make sure that everyone knows, as well as we have talked with the property owner as well, that this property is in the North Tiers. They could apply for a funding request to improve the facade and restore historical buildings, so they are eligible there if they chose to apply, as well as if they do. Article 12 in our ordinance has historic overlay zone tax abatement and historic project tax abatement, so that if you go in and do a project that helps restore that building, you will get some tax abatement off of your taxes over time. And so those are 2 other funding mechanisms for this project to continue to happen. With that, I will be happy to answer any questions.
Anyone have questions for the staff? Thank you, Aaron. Open it up for public comment.
Good morning, Blake with Wilde Engineering and Surveying here again. As Aaron had mentioned, yes, on the lot there with the existing house on it, it's kind of a 4-plex kind of apartment. It's kind of going into pretty bad disrepair. So the current owner is looking at, remodeling that. As Aaron had mentioned, there was a tree that had fell on the coach house in the back. They had started to kind of demolish it, but then was told they couldn't do it yet, so they're trying to work through all the legality process of, getting it done or repairing it, whatever it, according with the city code. So going through that, and like I said, just the one lot facing Chadburn Street would be a residential home. So just any questions or comments or anything? So
Thank you.
all right.
Anyone else wish to speak on this case? All right, I'm going to close public comment. Take thoughts or a motion.
I'd move to approve removing the conditions of 3 and 5 in our packet, which are sidewalk plan and certificate of appropriateness.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve striking note 3 from the recommendations on the slideshow here. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? 5-0. Sign variances. The Planning Commission has final authority for approval of conditional uses. Appeals may be directed to the City Council. SV 2401, 5205 South US Highway 87. A request for a sign variance to Section 1204-005 A1B. The multifamily height limited to 8 feet to allow 16 feet sign. The RM1 district located at 5205 South Bryant.
All right. Again, Aaron Vanoy, Director of Planning and Development Services. As you can see, this front slide's got a couple of errors on it. It is a request for a sign variance, and it is a sign variance. In RM1, a sign height is allowed to be 8 feet. They're requesting 16 feet in height for the variance. It is .91 acres, 914 acres in SMD1 Tommy Hebert and in the Glenmore neighborhood, which is odd because it's back that way, but it is in the Glenmore neighborhood. The property has just been recently developed there at the corner of Kimry and the frontage road. I want to say there's 8 units or maybe 10 units. I'm trying to remember now if there's 8 or 10 units there that are multifamily units. It's great to see another property being utilized for our multifamily properties that were just kind of sitting and not being utilized. Today, this is a sign variance, and so I've got 2 different images here. On the left side is the zoning, and you can see there's a multitude of different zonings in the area. This is off of South Bryant, and it's right just to the north of the big interchange of Loop 306. And so South Bryant and 277 and 87 all in that interchange. And this is a property less than a half a mile from that interchange. You can see on the east side of the road is some heavy commercial. You've got some ranch and estate. You've got Mosaic and Sonrisis. That's a planned development. You've got some zero lot homes. You've got some office commercial with some churches. Just a lot of stuff going on up there. And you can see that they're in the RM1 low-rise multifamily. On the right, that is a close-up of the actual sign on the structure. You can see that it does have 2 lights that are pointed down. So the lighting would be cast down. And you can see that it's called the Landmarks of San Angelo, and that's what this multifamily development is called, is the Landmarks. Each one of the units actually has one of the landmark names embedded into the property. This is the Goodfellow House, or this is the Cactus House, or those types of things. So here's that site layout. It is 8 properties there. But right up here is the location of the structure and sign. You can see that it's 10 feet off, which is the standard setback for RM1 zoning for a sign. Over here is the actual structure where they have this concrete base, a bit of an open structure, and then the grain bin or silo will be here, and then the sign will be painted on the front of that with the 2 lights downcast. You can see that really that sign's going to be kind of facing directly out here. In one case, it's more of a landmark. This is what we're saying. This is right here. In another case, it is RM1, and so it is kind of advertising for, hey, well, this is a multifamily facilities. If you wanted to stay here, this is what it's called. But I do think that impacts visibility. I've got lots of the different rationale for the hardship, and I wanted to make sure you guys had a chance to understand that. So our sign ordinance is kind of outside of our zoning ordinance. It's different hardship from our zoning ordinance. It has specific hardship requirements for signs, particularly when it talks about topographical issues, and even talks about vegetation issues when it comes to signs. And that's where on this property, while it does seem that it's very flat for quite a while, the interchange, kind of is a little higher, and you come down into there, and then it's kind of flat to the Concho River. It's also very wide, and visibility is not as easily. These properties sit lower than the roadway. And so really the sign is not seen by the roadway as easily as a normal 8-foot RM1 zoning subdivision sign would be. These are items that the applicant was asked to, when they did their application, what is their rationale for looking at this as a hardship. Of course, talking about the speed limit on Bryant, it's a much higher speed limit along Bryant. It, again, is low due to the South Concho River basin in that area. You can see there's the multitude of different zoning districts. Again, the criteria, again, is a location is hidden from southbound traffic. You'll see, I think I have a picture in here about the trees that are not on their property, that's actually across another property that they do not have control over. And then it is a rounded structure. It's It's not motorized, it's not LED lights. It's just kind of again, in their words, a placemaking sign. And again, the light is shielded and downcasted. So here's just looking at it straight on. Again, that sign would be somewhere right in this area. I think it's about 15 feet from the actual structures, but it's 10 feet back from the property line. Of course, it's hard to tell where exactly the property line is on properties like this when you're looking at them that way. So this is on the frontage road. As I'm in front of Mosaic, I pulled into their driveway and took a picture down this way. You can see the mesquite trees there that would kind of obscure the sign a little bit. And then this is actually from the exit or the access road exit that you really start having a hard time differentiating where this would be. If you're driving down this road at a higher rate of speed, you're probably not going to see that sign till you're right at it or past it. So here's our criteria that we have to meet for each and every one of these to be that we meet for this to be a positive vote or to go, if we were recommending denial. So again, special circumstances. The special circumstances were not created by the applicant. The special circumstances being the topography and the foliage. The granting of the variance, it is in general harmony of the neighborhood. There's a lot of other tall signs. Now they also have the zoning that goes with those signs, so that makes a difference. This is the minimum variance that they would need, and this does not depart from the provisions of the article. So staff does recommend approval of this sign variance that would request for a freestanding on-site sign that would be taller than the 8 foot, and we would put the condition that it's capped at the 16 feet, which is what they requested. And the other condition would be obtain permits for the sign. With that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
You talked about other zoning districts that have different rules for signage. Can you give us an idea of what's allowed in heavy commercial and commercial office?
So heavy commercial, you can have up to a 50-foot sign. The setback kind of varies depending on the height of the sign.
Sure.
I know that church there has one, and it has a full digital sign. The office commercial, I want to say that they were 35 feet. Does that sound right? I'm looking at the team that knows that data a lot better than I do. I think the maximum height is 35 feet in office commercial. Again, the setback is a little bit variable. I think a minimum of 10 feet, and then for every foot, it's so far back. The planned development, those probably have very special sign requirements. And of course, ranch and estate, it would just be your typical subdivision sign if there was a subdivision there in the residential area. This being residential, we do allow certain types of signs in our residential.
Yes.
RM1 has a very specific standard, and that's where the variance comes from. I think I had a picture that wasn't intentional to get the sign of, but you can see the church sign
Word
there.
of life.
Was not intentional to get that. I was really looking at there, but it just kind of shows where that is.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. I'm going to open it up for public comment. Anyone wish to speak on this case? All right, I'm going to close public comment and take thoughts or a motion.
You know, of interest, that sign appears more of a landscape item, you know, like if they were trying to do more of a landscape and the signage is just something that they painted on. I see these all the time with horses and other things, but I do like the landscape, you know.
Yeah, it doesn't look like a traditional monument sign or landmark sign. I agree.
I agree with y'all, and I'll make a motion to approve as presented.
Okay. We have a motion.
I'll second it.
And we have a second to approve as presented. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? 5-0. Okay, public comment. Issues or concerns not on the regular agenda may be raised at this time. Citizens should speak from the podium, address all comments to the dais, begin by stating their name and address for single-member district. I'm going to open it up for public comment. Anyone wish to speak?
Jamal Shumpert, single member, District Number 2. I just came up here to say y'all guys did a good job today. I want to thank you guys for serving on the board. I know y'all don't hear that often, but y'all did do a pretty good job today. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that. All right, anyone else wish to speak? All right, I'm closing public comment. Planning Director's report.
Thank you, Chairman. We've got a lot of work that's happening in our planning and development area. A couple of things that I just want to mention. We had worked on a reorganization of our department, and Charlie Kemp has been elevated to our full assistant director over both planning and building permits. She's still our building official, but she is our full assistant director, so we're very excited about that. And she's got a wealth of knowledge and help, and she's learning planning very, very quickly, and she's helping out, giving a different perspective, too, of what she sees from her field and plan review background, and just her management skills have been great. So we're very excited for her. So
congratulations.
Had to embarrass her a little bit. So we've done some good things, and with that, we have kind of modified the planning manager role into a planning and development administrator. That position should be getting posted very soon out to the public so that we can get that moving forward. It's been just over a year that we've been without a planning manager. And so we thought maybe changing the job title and changing up some of the duties might give us some more flexibility and help us get that filled and continue to help our planning team move forward. Some of the things that our staff team is working on, they're working on the cultural district, which is kind of south of the Concho River from Fort Concho, the Paseo, over to the Chamber of Commerce area and through there. And so they're working on what does it really mean to have a cultural district? What are our rules and our regulations? You guys should be seeing something coming forward to you as a draft, maybe in the next 2 months. So that y'all would have some stuff to digest of what those land use rules are, what some of the design district rules are, if there's anything that may need to be included or excluded, we're going to be bringing that guy forward to you. Our DHRC team is working on the historical design guidelines. Sherry Bailey's heading up a team that has some board members as well as some key stakeholders within our community about what are our true historic design guidelines so that our folks that are in those historic areas know exactly what to expect. And so that's going forward. I believe last month there was a gentleman here that talked about some open structure over in Paulan. We have done some initial analysis, and we hope to have a report for you next month on what that would mean and what that would look like. One thing that we have learned is that if there's not an alleyway, everyone's parking in the front. Yep. And a lot of people just don't use their garages traditionally like they used to. And it's probably because your house is just not big enough for storage. You start using your garage, so people park in the driveway. If you happen to have some kind of recreational boat, RV, whatever, that takes up another space on your driveway, and then lots of people are parking in the street. And so there's always that question of, well, how do we protect our property? And open structures is one way to do that. Then the question comes down to design. Do we want it to look like the house, or do we want it to be a flat metal structure that can be put up in a weekend or not? And that's what we're going to have to come back and really think about for certain areas of our community. So we're working towards that. We're working on a few other things. We've got some preliminary plans of looking at what it would mean if we started looking at comprehensive plan items, neighborhood plan items. And so we are doing a lot of work. The team has been working very, very hard, and so I'm very proud of our staff. And so we're continuing to try to bring things to you guys. With that, I think that's all I have today.
Do you have on your back burner anything for the tiny houses?
Yes. In fact, we actually have a meeting coming up in the next couple of weeks about a discussion on that, as well as just how to mitigate a piece of property that maybe we might create a homeless camp for, and part of that is going to be the tiny houses. I think we might have to look at that, A, on a zoning perspective, and then two, as a building perspective of what really is a tiny house. Is it something that's on wheels, that's really not under the building code, that's really, we would probably call an RV, or is it really a structure that's on something? And so we are looking at that. We anticipate something coming forward in the fall, probably late fall, that would address some of those issues.
Okay, I had a couple of things. The first is that we've received notice that Michelle Miller has resigned from her spot on the planning commission, and kind of bummed to see her go, but understand that her job is her priority.
Yes.
So look forward to having someone else step in and contribute. The other thing I was going to follow up on is we've had a short-term rental case. There was talk about maybe having staff that was focused on compliance and enforcement and applications, and just was hoping to get a quick update on kind of where things are with short-term rentals.
With our short-term rentals, I'll talk about just the enforcement side for just a moment.
Okay.
Part of our reorganization was we were reutilizing what we call a full-time equivalent position that was kind of more of a management position. We actually moved that down to the front line, and so we are currently in the process of going out for what we call a combination inspector. They're going to have some building permit requirements, particularly with violations, notice of violations, as well as taking over our short-term rental program. They're going to be the lead on that so that they can perform the inspections. They're checking up on things. They're helping maintain the website and doing things. So we plan on having that in our department. The spot's been approved. We're just waiting to get it through our human resources to get the position posted.
Okay.
And then we're going to bring them in, go through code enforcement training, go through the building type of training, and get started. And I'll kind of turn it over to Ray just a moment, because I know she's got an update maybe on the website and just the overall short-term rental process.
Okay.
Okay. We should have a website updated within the next 2 weeks. And then we have been watching some demos on some software to help us with enforcement. So we hope to get a software here shortly. A lot of cool softwares out there that really help with enforcement, and one of them even said matched Travis's number or a little bit more than your number.
Yeah.
Said that they, in their preliminary search, found 186 listed in our area, and we only have 55 registered. So we are working on getting software. We're watching demos and everything. We should be going to City Council soon to request the funding for it.
Okay, that's wonderful.
So as you can tell, I mean, we do have those operators that are coming to us and have listened, but obviously we have a large portion of them that have not. They still have not come to us. The biggest challenge what we have is knowing if they're really operating or not, and that's one of the advantages of that software company, that they do that evaluation for us. So they advertising and operating, we don't have the staff time to do that unless there's a complaint. And so that's the second piece of, we got to have the website. If people want to lodge a complaint, they need a place to lodge a complaint. No matter the time of day, no matter what's happening, they got to be able to lodge a complaint, because we even heard today from our records, what we researched,
No
everything looked
issues.
really good, but
Right.
somebody from the neighborhood who deals with it on a daily basis, no, that's not really the case. Well, we've got to transition them to, all right, how do you get us that information so that we can make better decisions? Because that's really what it's about, is you guys, bringing you guys the information to make better decisions.
I agree with all of that, and I'm really glad to hear that you guys are making strides towards improving the regulation of that ordinance. Do you guys know what the local hotel occupancy tax rate is?
I think it's 6%.
Is
Because
it 6 or 7%?
I thought they were 6, and I thought
I think it's 7, but then if there's something where they get a 1% discount. I'm not sure what triggers that, but.
Okay.
Yeah, so it goes down to 6.
So I'm asking because I think that's a relevant figure, especially when you talk about the number of properties that may be operating without a license and probably aren't paying their taxes. It's a significant number.
And you think about what those hot taxes go towards. They go back towards helping revitalize Fort Concho.
Yeah.
They go back to helping our symphony. All those different activities that are drawing people into our community. That's what those dollars are for.
Yes.
And, those properties that are doing short-term rentals are acting as a hotel, and they just happen to be allowed in residential areas, and so they need to be contributing to that as well.
I agree with that. Okay. Thank you, Aaron. Looks like announcements and consideration for future agenda items. I think we've covered most of that. Y'all have anything else for future agenda items?
I want to make sure everybody on board knows that next month's meeting is at 2 p.m., not 9 a.m. We had to move it as city council.
I was just about to
meets
read that. It looks like our next meeting is scheduled for Monday, August 19th at 2 p.m. in the same spot, East Mezzanine Meeting Room at City Hall. Okay, so adjournment. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? 5-0, 11:07 a.m. Thank y'all.